bit different today. Instead of fast forwarding through the drive, what we're going to see is whether or not this car can drive me to work without any intervention. We are currently on FSD beta 10.5 that was released earlier this week, and we'll see how well it does. And so one interesting thing I noted when I first got in the car was that it was charged to 94%. It's dropped down to 93% right now. I do have it set to 90%, and so it overshot. That's not something I've seen in a while, and not sure if it was anything to do with the update or just timing. This is a little bit different time that I'm starting work. As you can see, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and so I'm not sure if it had to do with just anticipated time that I was going to leave. As far as the vehicle goes, I have full control of the vehicle at all times. It is not a fully autonomous vehicle. There's a car passing me here on the left. I do have my hand on the wheel and I can take over at any moment. The car, though, is pretty much going to drive, hopefully, itself all the way to work. As far as speed settings go, I do have it to be 5% over the speed limit, and that's something you can watch. As the speed limit changes, you'll see that the amount over will change, and so 5% over right now puts us at 42 miles per hour with the speed limit of 40. There's going to be a speed change up here with the speed limit dropping down to 35. It will automatically change to 37. One interesting thing is, though, that it doesn't do it until after it passes the stop sign. What I'd like to see is that it can see that 35 mile per hour speed limit there to the right, and then it slows down before you get to the speed limit. But there you go, you see the automatic change from 35 to 37. And so the way that it usually likes to go up here is it likes to turn right onto a smaller street, and then there'll be a quick left and a quick right. I don't like really going that way, especially with the leaves and branches in the road. I usually will take over, so I'm going to cancel. And then I'm going to let the car go straight, and once it passes that street that it wants to turn right on, I'll just restart the navigation. And that turn should be coming up here to the right very shortly. What I want to talk about is some maintenance things that I've done on the car and planning on doing on the car. And I guess the biggest thing is the tires. I'm just going to restart the navigation here. So now this turn up here to the right, it's had a little bit of trouble with in the past. I'd say it gets it right maybe 60% of the time. A lot of times what it'll do, it'll turn into the parking lane up here to the right. And so it enters here, we'll see it come to a complete stop like it should, except the light turned green. And then we'll make this right-hand turn, and it looks like it goes into the parking lane again, and then it should merge on over to the main road. So didn't take over because I didn't think that it was a safety issue, but as you see, it did turn right. I'm going to report that it did turn right into the parking lane again, and then merged over into the main lane of travel. And so, as I was saying earlier, tires. So this is the Model 3 Performance. It's a 2019 version, and when I bought the car, it did come with summer-only tires, 20-inch wheels. And what I've learned through internet searches is that really under 45 degrees, when the average ambient temperature is under 45 degrees, you don't want to be on summer tires. And I believe it has something to do with the tread compound, where the compound actually gets too cold, too hard. When it gets too hard, the compound could potentially start chunking off. And then what you start losing also is grip as it gets too low, as the temperatures drop. And so the interesting thing about the Model 3 Performance is that you can't just buy any 18-inch wheel and expect it to fit. There's a couple clearance issues. One of the biggest clearance issues is the brakes. The Model 3 Performance does come with a slightly larger brake package, and with that brake package, not all of the 18-inch wheels will clear the brakes. The other issue is that the hub on the front wheels are not flush, and so there's actually a little lip, and if you don't have a large enough cutout, then your wheel won't actually fit flush with the hub. And so there's a couple ways to get around that. Way that I decided to do to keep a hub-centric wheel was go with TSS Sport line, and they were able to, I believe actually it's T Sport line, and I went with the TSS wheels. This was a couple years ago, and they made a Model 3 specific wheel that just fits on, and there's no issues with that hub clearing, and that keeps the hub-centric design. What other people have done also is gone to a lug-centric design, where basically the cutout for the wheel hub is much larger, but then what you're relying on to line up the wheel is the lug nuts to keep it lug-centric. I don't think there's a difference between the two. I just like the fact that these wheels were made specifically for the Model 3. What's nice about it too is that they are 18-inch wheels instead of 20-inch wheels, and that allows for a much higher profile tire, which should improve compliance and grip in the snow. And as far as the tires go, I went with the Michelin XI3. Did purchase those through Discount Tire. Did get the replacement certificates with them, and I think the total price for the tires was around $900. I think I paid at the time $160, I believe, for the TPMS sensors. Those were actually ordered directly from Tesla, and we're waiting at the Discount Tire where I purchased the tires, and they mounted those on the tires, and I brought the wheels to them. What was nice about the wheels is instead of having them shipped to my house and then putting in my car and then having to drive it down to Discount Tire, I was able just to ship it to the Walgreens that was right next to the Discount Tire, and literally I grabbed a shopping cart, picked up the wheels at Walgreens and wheeled them across the parking lot to Discount Tire and had them mount them for me, and then mount and balance them, and then they then mounted them on the car. And that first time I did that, I did have my wife follow me there, and we loaded up the full set of tires and wheels into the SUV and brought them home. But what's nice now, a little too much pressure on the wheel there, as you see. It's interesting too that it wanted to go over, so not quite sure what happened there. It was trying to move right. I was holding onto the wheel, which allowed me to take over, and then when I reactivated it, it was aiming towards that parking lane again, and had to take over there to put it back in its lane. But going back to the tires and wheels, is now that they're mounted on its own specific wheels when the time comes, and so I did it this year, just maybe about 3 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, is I just take them down off the mount in the garage. So let's see how this car makes this entrance onto the freeway. It looks like it's going about 25 miles per hour. It did slow down to 17 there, and then usually this part of the turn is very smooth. It's a little bit different because the lighting is different and the time of day is different, but overall I'd say that turn was pretty smooth. Usually accelerates. It seems like it accelerated a little bit slower than normal, or a little bit later than normal, but now it's getting up to speed, and I can definitely feel a little surge in acceleration there. We'll have a clear lane to the left to come over, and we'll see it switch from the full self-driving city stack to the freeway or highway stack. And so going back to the wheels, is that wheels and tires, is that in the winter time I can just take them off of the mount that I have in my garage, bring them down, lift up the car with the jacking pucks, and switch out the tires and wheels at the same time without having the hassle of taking the tires to Discount Tire, putting them, somehow fitting all four in the car. That'd probably be some in the back seat, some in the trunk, and then having them remount them onto my existing wheels and then put them back on the car, and hassle of taking that summer tire back to the house. The other benefit that it added was it didn't let me need to 20-inch winter tires, which will probably do okay, but having that lower profile, I just wasn't sure how well it would do, but definitely with the 18-inch wheels, I've noticed a great grip in the wintertime. Hopefully we'll get some ice and snow coming up here, and what I've noticed here in the Pacific Northwest is we don't do a great job plowing, especially the small area, the small roads that I live on. Even the main road that I live on, it does not get plowed very often, and so we actually get to put the Model 3 to its paces in the winter. And with this set of tires on these 18-inch wheels, I tried my best last year to get it stuck. Then we have a pretty good incline on one of the hills next to my close to where I live, and I definitely tried to get the vehicle stuck. I stopped, it had iced over, and the only way that I managed to get it stuck on that road was to actually put it into track mode, and once in track mode was I able to get it stuck. So far pretty uneventful since we've gone on the highway. Should make this change to the 405 South interchange without any problems, which it does. And what you'll see nicely is on this overpass, it does a really good job at maintaining speed. It's going to maintain 63. Pretty soon it'll see it drop to 55. The speed limit there is 50 here. And so you see it drop to 55, the car slows down, and usually it can take this turn at about 55, 50, and so we'll see what it does. Looks like it's hold 56, 55 now, and as you see, it centers pretty well. There's not a lot of right to left lateral movement. You can watch the wheel and you can see a little bit of movement, but you don't really feel that way on the seat. You see towards the end of the turn, it accelerated up to 58 and then 60, now doing 61 and go to 63. And what I wanted to point out, as I mentioned earlier, I'm set to be 5% over the speed limit. So here now at 60, it's going to go 63. The rest of this drive really should be uneventful. The highway stack has been really solid, probably for a good 6 to 9 months, if not longer. And I really don't have to intervene, and the car just drives nicely. And so one of the things that I noticed about full self-driving or autopilot, or I guess technically I navigate on autopilot right now, is it takes away a lot of the tiny micro adjustments that you do when driving, and it also makes you care a little bit less about time and care about getting to your destination very quickly. As you see here, it shows I'm going to get to work at 6:25 a.m., which gives me plenty of time. And when I used to drive, when I get in the car, it was all about minimizing the drive time. I feel like I'd be watching the lanes and saying, okay, it looks like traffic is slowing in this lane, it's moving a little bit faster in the lane to the left, and so I'd try to switch lanes a lot to maintain my speed of, at the time, probably 4 miles over the speed limit, so it would be 64. But what I've noticed with time and with driving is that it doesn't really matter anymore. And what I've also noticed is that it probably doesn't save all that much time switching lanes, because once you get off the freeway, there's going to be a signal light, and at that signal light, you're going to get stuck, and at times up to a minute where you're stuck. So the 30 seconds you gain by passing a vehicle and then coming back over really almost turns out to be a wash at the end. The other behavior that I noticed that is better on Navigate on Autopilot is here on the freeway. As I do stay in the right lane more, it used to have not an issue, but it would want to keep the car very centered, and so when you'd have a merging lane coming on, it used to be a pretty abrupt sort of movement to the right to keep centered once the lane opened up wider. But hopefully here in the next half mile or so, we'll be able to see its behavior, and it does still move over to keep centered, but the lateral movement is much smoother, and you don't really right. Fortunately, it looks like it wants to change lanes into the faster lane. I was hoping that it would show you up here, but the vehicle obviously has a mind of its own. It's changed to the left lane to move into faster traffic. There really wasn't any traffic once that vehicle exited, and so I think it was detecting that car going slow, exiting the freeway, and I think that's what caused it to move over here to the left. So I was hoping to be able to show you here the behavior with the merge on. Actually, it was a good thing that it moved over, because you see that truck coming on, we would have been almost parallel with him, and so either this vehicle would have slowed down to give way. It's possible it would have just kept its speed and stayed in that lane. And so the car will move over, hopefully to the right, so I can show you that behavior. If not, it'll be on another drive. And so far, for those keeping count, it looks like I did have technically 2 interventions back at that signal light in the city or suburbs there. I had to take over because one, I think it was trying to go right. It was for some reason trying to go right, and by having my hand firmly on the wheel, it canceled the auto steer, and then when I reset it, it tried to go right again, and so I put it back in its lane and then reset it. But aside from that spot there and that turn where it turned into the parking lane again, it looks like it would have been close to a 0 intervention drive. I think I do head into work same time tomorrow. What I'm going to do is just let it turn right on that Snohomish, so that you guys can see how it handles that, and we'll see if it makes any difference. One thing that I don't think I'll be able to point out right now, there's just not enough cars on the road, is I think one complaint I hear at work a lot is, oh, it doesn't have blind spot monitoring, you can't see, you look in the mirrors and there's no warning that there's somebody in your blind spot. I think when you look at the screen and the way that it's rendering the vehicles around you, one is if you have your mirrors adjusted properly, you're not going to have a blind spot. And so the way I have my mirrors set up right now, I don't feel like I have a blind spot when cars are either passing me or I'm passing them. I can see them either in the mirror or my peripheral vision. But as you can see on the screen, it'll render the cars very nicely, and you'll be able to see if there's a car there. Also, if you're letting the car drive and you're letting it change lanes, it's not going to change lanes into a vehicle that's there. It is going to slow down or accelerate if it can. And so I think it becomes less of an issue. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to show you guys the lane centering on the with merging lanes. The car looks like it's just going to stay in this lane, and there's no cars behind me. Looking in my rearview mirror, we're a good 20 car lengths to any car behind me, either in the lane to my left, behind me, or lane to the right. There looks like there's a vehicle going maybe about 70, 75 here on the left, so there's a chance you'll see him pop up here. I think we'll be able to see it now. So I can see the car on my left now in both my rearview mirror and my side view mirror. The right headlight is just exiting, and so I see him on my left mirror. You'll see him pop up on the screen. I can see my mirror now. I see, as soon as I stop seeing in my mirror, I can see his headlights parallel with me in my peripheral vision, and you saw it there pop up on the screen. Should be another vehicle here. So in my side view left mirror, I can see him. I can see lights. I can see lights, and see the car, just lose him, and then he pops up in my peripheral vision. And if you were paying attention on the screen, you could have seen how it showed up on the screen. And so the car should be changing lanes up here to the right shortly. It says upcoming lane change. Also, a good thing about it is, even though the vehicle is driving, it's telling us what it wants to do. You have full control over it. You can take over the steering wheel at any time, and it gives you back in control. You can actually use the turn signals, and if you turn on the left turn signal, the right turn signal, it will automatically change that lane for you. And so if you're not paying attention to your blind spots, so there would be a car here, pop up here on the left on the screen there, should be popping up shortly. He's not passing as quickly as I thought he would. And so there he is there. I can still see him in my mirror. I can see him in my mirror. Still see him in my mirror. lost him there, but then I can see him out of peripheral vision of him on the left side. And you see there, now he's passing there. And so I don't think having an active blind spot monitoring is needed once you let the car do the driving. We'll see up here how this reaction goes. There are cars merging on here to the right. Looks like there's a car there. We should slow down. You'll see a 63. See a little bit of a slowing. Looks like 62, 61. And so I think it times that pretty well. We lost 2 miles per hour. That other car on that right lane was probably going a little slower than 60 when we were catching him, but he obviously accelerated up to 60, 61, and the vehicle predicted that nicely, and we didn't have any harsh slowing or harsh braking at that time. And so coming off the freeway here changes into the appropriate lane. The other thing that I noticed is that the behavior coming off the off-ramp is much nicer when it's switched to the city full self-driving stack than the highway or freeway full self-driving stack, or I'm sorry, autopilot stack. The curve was just not very smooth, but hopefully I'll be able to point out here as the car enters this here, you'll see it slowing down nicely for the turn. This is a pretty abrupt right-hand turn, and so the speed limit is 30. You see it slowing down to 40. Makes this right-hand turn and stays in the right-hand lane. It used to have some issues up here, and so we'll see how it goes, like just turning red there. And so definitely much smoother on this off-ramp here. Should stop car. I'm going to take over there. I'm not sure. It felt like the car wanted to go and was not going to stop. I'm going to reverse just a little bit to put us back where we need to be and reactivate. And fortunately, the light turned green quickly there, and I can reactivate there. And so that was interesting. I've not seen that behavior yet, but I did take over there. So that would be the 3rd takeover.
Now turn right onto Northeast 10th Street.
But overall, so I'd say right now 10.5 is probably 80% of the way there. It is pretty good, and has gotten me very close to work. I had to take over in 3 spots. Hopefully that improves. We'll see how it does tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching, and let me know if you like this format better or if you like it better where I fast forward.